So this video is not going to have anything to do with cars or video games or stuff like that. I'm actually going to go outside my wheelhouse a bit, and I want to talk about the Netflix show Defenders, or more accurately Marvel's The Defenders. I just finished binge watching it on Netflix, and to be absolutely honest, I was pretty underwhelmed. I was really excited for this show. I was a huge fan of Daredevil and Luke Cage. Anyway, I think I've narrowed down a couple reasons as to why this show really underwhelmed me, if you will. Number one, I feel like the hype was too big. And by hype, I don't just mean the marketing and things like that. I mean the expectations that I, as a fan, and many others had for this show. If you look back to the Daredevil show and Luke Cage, or even Jessica Jones, those shows were so well done. They were so cinematic. I think the best example of this is the scene from season 2 where Daredevil and the Punisher are in the cemetery together. And that scene truly felt like something that you would never see on TV. It was so emotional. It was so raw. It was so realistic as well. It was as if you were watching a comic book panel come to life in its most true form, and nothing felt rushed. Everything throughout these shows seemed as if they were happening organically or naturally, whereas that wasn't really the case for The Defenders, and it kind of felt the same way with the Iron Fist show as well. It felt almost artificial. It felt manufactured. It felt as if someone rushed the script, if you will. And I feel that really hurt the show. If you want another example of this, all you have to do is look at Game of Thrones. More specifically, Season 7 of Game of Thrones. Besides, I'll do a video of that later explaining my whole thing with that. The Defenders Netflix show was only about 8 episodes from start to finish. Now, in those 8 episodes, they had to get the characters together, they had to create their dynamic, and then they had to have them face their foe. They have to have a full arc from meeting, personal growth, facing foe, defeating foe. And to be absolutely honest, 8 episodes is not enough for that. If you look at the first couple episodes, it really does feel like they're trying to cram as much into it as possible, and that really does hurt the overall feel of the show. It would have been better off if they lengthened the series by maybe about 2 or 3 episodes. Devoted the first couple episodes to them just meeting each other, to just understanding each other and doing all of that, and then had them face their foe, but over a more spread out time period. If I remember correctly, in the show, from episode 1 to episode 8 was about the span of a week. To be absolutely honest, that is a massively compressed time schedule, and it really does show in the pacing of the show. It feels stressed. Everything in the show feels, like I said earlier, artificial. It doesn't feel like this would actually happen. And I understand that this is a comic book show set in a universe where there was an alien invasion and where a guy can summon chi to his fist, and one guy has a bulletproof body and another guy is the god of thunder and all of that. But I still expect people to behave the way people behave. And it was an odd mix, if you will, because you see Daredevil's seriousness and his morality, if you will, but then you see that interspersed with Danny Rand's just crazy stupidity. And if done correctly, they could have balanced each other out very well, but the problem is it wasn't done correctly, and when you add in the compressed time frame, it makes it so much worse. Like I said, I feel like they should have had a couple episodes where they just had the characters interact, where they just had the introductions done, or they should have done that in the prior series, their solo series. To try and force all of that plus a storyline into 8 episodes is crazy, and it is the exact same problem that Game of Thrones is happening. I'm definitely going to do a separate video for next week after episode 7 of Game of Thrones airs, explaining why everybody's disliking it so much. Hit subscribe if you want to see that. That'll definitely be coming out next week. I want to go back to what I said earlier about the whole character dynamics of the show. Now, there's a scene where the Iron Fist is explaining to Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and the Daredevil about how he gets his power. Now, they're separate scenes, but they have a similar motif. Both Luke Cage and Jessica Jones don't believe him at first. What I don't really get is that Luke Cage is bulletproof, Jessica Jones has super strength, and that she faced off against a guy who had mind control abilities. So I don't get why it's so far-fetched to believe that some character might have the ability to summon chi and punch people. They've obviously seen him do it, and they've obviously seen that he has the power, but they doubt how he got the power. To me, that just seems a little weird. And again, this is in a universe where gods like Thor and everybody exists and that they're common knowledge. If you look at Spider-Man Homecoming, which is in the same universe as this show, you can clearly see that their people are selling masks and things of Thor, so people clearly know that this character exists and this character has the powers and his backstory. I don't get why it's so unbelievable to think this guy got his powers from some ancient monastery. Another thing that was a little awkward to me was the scene where the Iron Fist is taking out the cleanup guy who's cleaning up the bodies of the chased. Now Luke Cage intervenes, they have a little fight out, and then they get to talking. When they were talking, Luke Cage says that you shouldn't go after people who are just trying to feed their families. I understand that to a degree, but the simple fact of the matter is that this guy is cleaning up dead bodies, and he's helping a crime syndication continue to do their thing. Now, when he says feeding their families, so an earlier scene where they show him living alone in this dark, dingy apartment, Luke pans the room, he sees that he's buying new shoes and things like that, and he's not feeding his kids or anything like that, but he is taking care of his mother to a degree, putting down a down payment on a house and everything. But it just seems odd that Luke Cage at that moment chooses to lecture Danny, who is a character who has gone through all this strife and struggle about privilege. I'm pretty sure that Luke must have seen something on the news about how this kid was in a plane crash, had his parents die and all of that, and they do reference that part of his life. For example, Jessica Jones, when upon hearing his name, says the billionaire kid or something like that. So they do know of each other. I just don't get why that privilege line was thrown in there, and to be honest, it feels really weird. I know I've heard that line before somewhere, I just can't remember where. Oh, one more thing I need to add. I am Asian, in case you can't tell by the sound of my voice. And there was some controversy with the Iron Fist show about how they were taking from Asian culture or something like that. I can tell you right now, I know many Asians because I'm Asian, and we don't really mind. I mean, I was just happy to see an actual Asian person in the show. Granted, they weren't the main character, but you know. As you can probably see from my montage, what most people really care about is when a character that's supposed to be Asian gets whitewashed. Ghost in the Shell is just one recent example. Other than that, most people don't really care who uses what skill set, because the fact of the matter is a skill can be learned by anybody. With enough training and dedication, anyone can learn any fighting style or skill. That skill isn't limited to your race, and as long as the character is not whitewashed or something like that, everyone's okay with it. There's no reason to hate on Doctor Strange or the Iron Fist because they used Asian things. Whatever crazy ridiculous controversy or that there's going to be about these shows. Anyway, other than that, other than the lack of the character development or the character bond development, I think the show was pretty solid. It was entertaining to watch. Like I said, it was rushed. It did feel a little contrived at some points, and if they just made it a little bit longer, and if they just focused more on how the characters interacted with each other, I think this show could have been pretty epic. That plus adding David Tennant in wouldn't be too bad. So if you like this video, hit like. If you disagree with me, comment down below, hit dislike. I'd love to hear your opinion on what you think about this. And that's about it. I'll upload that Game of Thrones video next week.